I'm here in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm performing all weekend at the comic strip inside the West Edmonton Mall. And while I'm here in town, I want to try Canada's national dish, poutine. Problem is, I don't eat meat. Now, everybody knows to have a classic Canadian poutine, you need, number one, good beef. Number two, good gravy, which is also made from beef. So I'm gonna challenge myself. I'm gonna try to make Canadian style poutine using veggies. This is Flavor City. Now I'm gonna attempt to make a gravy using just vegetables. I'm gonna be using carrots, celery, mushrooms, and onions. That's also gonna be my main topping on the poutine is vegetables. I suppose that if you wanted to, you could use some imitation meat, but to tell you the truth, I'm not a giant fan of those. I like the Beyond sausages, I like the Impossible burgers. When it comes to ground beef imitation, it's just kind of gross. I'm also gonna be making my own fries with real fresh potatoes. The reason I boil them a little bit first is because I want them to cook faster. You don't wanna boil them too much because you don't want them to turn into mashed potatoes. After they're done boiling, I place them into the refrigerator. The refrigerator is basically going to dry them out and it'll get rid of any of the moisture because we're gonna want them to be crispy. Let's go ahead and start on the gravy. I'm gonna put some olive oil in the bottom of the pan and then I'm gonna throw in my onions, mushrooms, and garlic. Anytime you're making a sauce, a soup, any type of liquid type form, you should always be starting with onions and garlic. If you're not starting with onions and garlic, you're doing something wrong. Once those start to get some color, turn nice and brown, I am going to throw in my carrots and celery. Now I got all my veggies cooking in there nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and add the liquids. I always like to start with a nice white wine. A lot of people cook with just water, and I say to those people, what the hell are you doing? In addition to the white wine, I'm also gonna be using a veggie stock. You can go ahead and add any spices you want. Normally, I would add rosemary, a little thyme, but this is not my normal kitchen, so I'm dealing with whatever I have. So in this case, I'm actually gonna be using salt, pepper, cayenne pepper, garlic powder, chili powder, and what would go great is Worcestershire sauce. Everybody has their own way of saying it, and they're all correct. Now it's time for my fries. My favorite seasoning for fries or potato wedges or any type of potato really is simply salt, pepper, sometimes a little garlic powder, and my favorite, paprika. Go ahead and pop those in a toaster oven. We're gonna let them get nice and crispy. Traditional Canadian poutine calls for cheese curds. I don't have that, so I went ahead and got some marble cheese cut up into little cubes and kind of placed around on top. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pop these back into the toaster oven to melt that cheese a little bit. So there you have it, the infamous traditional Canadian vegetarian poutine, or as I like to call it, poutine for pussies. Now you can't have a traditional Canadian dish without traditional Canadian whiskey. Dude, that's poutine. I'm gonna go ahead and call this a successful attempt. It's actually very spicy due to the chili pepper that I added, so if you don't like spice, don't add that. But I love spicy, and after all, this is Flavor City.
Heads up, there's smoke in the kitchen. Heads up.